Well, good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I just can't believe it. It is such a calm and serene morning, hardly a breeze, and one of those absolutely magnificent spring days to welcome in this Saturday. Anyway, I'm up here on the International Passenger Terminal, just above the Quay restaurant, and as you can see, I've got a 360-degree magnificent, magical view of all of Sydney. It's a place that I normally come to, I regularly come to, and believe it or not, there's hardly ever a soul up here, which I just find amazing, because it is the most perfect vantage point to sit up here and just contemplate, welcome in the morning, and just appreciate the beauty of this country that we live in. Anyway, what I want to do today is kick off with a book summary like I normally and traditionally do on Jim's 5am Club, and I'm into my 1,400 and I think 12th or 2nd or 13th episode today in English, and well on my way to amassing 1,500 vlogs and becoming the world's most prolific vlogger of personal development material. And it's happened over the past couple of years. It started as an idea. One morning I was in the car, so I just threw my phone on the dash and just started talking about some of my work experiences. And slowly but surely it has transitioned into a project that I've enjoyed doing over the past couple of years during COVID, and I look forward to hopefully doing it for many years to come. Anyway, today's book summary is entitled First Principles by an author named Thomas B. Ricks. And this book is all about how the ancient Greek and ancient Roman thinking has influenced politics throughout the world. As my late Uncle George Gekas used to always say, the Greeks have given the world more than what the world could ever hope to repay. And when I was a young bloke, I used to think that he may have been exaggerating a bit, given that he was Greek and that I was Greek. But with time, you seem to learn that the Greeks, during their golden years, during the years where they had time to settle down, to think, to contemplate, to dream up ideals and to try and implement those ideals, and to document those ideals as well as to practice them and to learn from their mistakes, is a great part of our history and an undeniable part of our history as well. I often hear people crowing about their indigenous culture, saying it's the oldest culture in the world, over 60,000 years in the making. And then I say to myself, well, where is the evidence of that culture? You know, what did they create with that culture? And I read just a few weeks ago how in order to create a viable, vibrant and sustainable culture, you basically need to have time to think and time to contemplate. And you can't really do that if you're a hunter-gatherer society. The authors of this article that I read basically stated, and I think it makes a lot of sense, that if you're a hunter-gatherer community, society, then you're always on the move, you're always doing things, you're always out there working, and you don't have time to kick back and think and contemplate. Whereas the societies that had settled down and had agriculture and lived in communities and debated and talked and learned from others. One of the great things about Greece is that Greece was on the trade routes, between the trade routes of the East and the West. It was the bridge that joined the East and the West, and it was a melting pot which amassed and accumulated massive amounts of knowledge, skills, and techniques from different people from different parts of the world, because they were passing through Greece, they were trading with Greece, and hence the Greeks were able to take things and add it to other things that they'd learned from other people, and that way they were able to compound their knowledge, compound their experiences using OPE, other people's experiences, to create systems, to create a knowledge base that could dramatically influence and change the entire world from that point on. So the author in this book kicks off by saying that Greek and Roman political thought has influenced American politics for hundreds of years, and it is undeniable. It has greatly influenced the founding fathers, and it shaped American politics. And not only did it shape American politics, it has shaped English politics, French politics, Australian politics, you name it. The politics of the civilized world is an expression and a follow-through and a carry-on from days gone by, from ideals that were struck thousands of years ago. So the first formal point to come from this author is where he talks about the fact that one of America's leading figures was highly inspired by past Roman emperors, who were in turn influenced by Greek thinkers. And the Greek thought, the Greek thinking, and Greek philosophy occupy the first seat at the elite table. And the author says that the Greek ideology shaped the world and has shaped the worldview with the values and the ideals that they considered, they talked about, and they projected into our world. So getting back to the Roman emperors, the author says here that the Roman emperors built on the Greek narrative, and that Greek narrative influenced Washington and how America grew. Cicero, a Roman emperor, was one of the best, according to this author, and that Rome, at its peak, at its highest level, had achieved the greatest level of state and military genius that the world has ever seen. So we must never forget, that there are cultures, that there have been societies that have come before us who have exemplified what society can achieve, have been great examples of what is possible. And we need to learn from them in terms of both the good things that they did and the good things that came out of these examples, as well as the bad things. But the important lesson here is that when you fight for democracy, or when you support democracy, it's done as a battle, because you're fighting against corruption, you're fighting against the elite groups within a society, and you're fighting against power. So you're swimming against the tide. But the benefits, the many benefits that come from supporting a democracy and feeding and maintaining a democracy are just too many, I guess, to mention. But we all know that that framework is a framework that works. It's a framework which is not perfect. It has its ups and downs, and not everybody can implement it at its highest and purest form. But it is something that can shape our future and can create, hopefully, a better world for us and our children going forward. So the second formal point to come from this author is where he talks about the founding fathers of America, who found inspiration in Roman and Greek ways of thinking. I've often read that the greatest export that came out of Greece was Greek thought, the ability to think freely, the ability to share your thoughts without feeling uncomfortable or stupid, and the ability to at least think about ideals and values and debate and deliberate on these things in a way that can help and shape a better society, a better community. And it's the thread that holds the fabric of the community together, keeps it pure, and maintains its structural integrity. So Greek thought is also something that has found its way into Christian thought. The early church fathers, the early Christians, were Greek thinkers. The first disciples were Hellenized Jews. The Old Testament was first translated into Greek. The New Testament was recorded and captured in the Greek language using Greek thought. So this whole concept of Greek thinking and Greek thought is one of those exports that has come from a different place and a different time, but has, I guess, influenced deeply the world that we have today, the way I think, the way you think, the way our society thinks, or the way civilized society thinks. It is an integral part of our lives, and that we experience it every single day, even if we don't acknowledge it. Even if we don't acknowledge it, even if we don't see it, it is there and it is undeniable. So this whole concept of having an ideal, having a strong military, and having a strong population who can debate and deliberate on things is the founding, or are the founding principles of the American Constitution and American society. Jefferson, for example, was a fan of Epicurus, Euripides, and others. And he believed, like we all believe, or we all should believe, that all humans are created equal, and we all deserve, as a birthright, the ability to pursue happiness, which is, once again, part of the philosophies, part of the thinkings of Epicurus. So the last point to come from this book, from this author, is where he says that many of the leading figures of America saw radical change from one mandate to another. But what has happened over time is that things have changed. The things have changed in America, in Australia, in England, and across the civilized world. And we've moved away from the classics. We've moved away from classical education, and we've made way for another form of politics, another form of education, which is more about enlightenment. So the author here is warning us that we're moving away from ideals. We're moving away from a value-based society. We're moving away from our ability to debate and deliberate. And we're moving into a world where, we've got groupthink. We've got people telling us how to think and how to behave. And it's causing, issues, especially for younger generations who are manipulated through social media, through all forms of media, and lack the ability for critical thinking, and are being shaped in a way which is not going to, enable them to have a freer future, but to be, corralled by certain influences, as we now know them. People who have no credentials, who have no formal education, who have no authority, and yet are able to influence the way people think, the way people behave, by, manipulating messages, manipulating media, manipulating the world view, and then that filters and that permeates our society, and causes grief and issues going forward. So what the author here is finishing up by saying is that enlightenment has given way to romanticism, which is leading to a thing called rationalism, in terms of the way we see things. We no longer want to have a romantic view of the world. People want to be more rational. And as the masses look for more rational views rather than the classic views, things are starting to slowly die out to emotion, where everything is run on how we feel. And we all know that how we feel can be manipulated by what we read, who we hang out with, how we've been brought up. So if you've been brought up and if you hang out with people who base their life on feeling as opposed to base their life on critical thinking and being able to, search through the past and learn from the past, then we're on a path of, troubled futures for all of us. And we're at a point now, we're at a juncture in the history of mankind where virtue, according to this author, no longer is the guiding light. Doing the right thing by others is no longer the key journey. It's all about us. It's all about selfishness as opposed to selflessness, which was the guiding principles in the past. where we knew and we grew up knowing that one hand washes the other and both wash the face, whereas these days all we want to do is just seek, do, think about ways of extending our own selfish desires as opposed to being the people, the leaders who have a broader view and not only look for our own needs but look to serve others, our neighbours, look to serve God, and look to make this place, this country, this world a better place for all of us, which may mean that we may miss out on a few things along the way, but it doesn't matter as long as the average benefit is lifted across the board. That's all that really should matter. It's not about us gaining all we can in a selfish pursuit of gluttony, but we should be looking at, sharing the benefits, sharing the wealth, and sharing everything that this beautiful country, this beautiful world has to offer us all. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I see that the flags on the iconic Harbour Bridge are back now at full mast following the death of Queen Elizabeth and the mourning period on Thursday. So I think we will no longer have another half-mast period for Queen Elizabeth, and we'll move on from this point forward. So take care, everybody. Have a great Saturday. And as you can see, it is so peaceful. The breeze is ever so light, and the harbour is at its calmest that I've seen for quite a while. I guess it would have been a perfect sort of morning had it not been for those clouds over there. But I guess from now on, the weather is starting to warm up. Spring in Australia is well and truly happening, and we've got great days going forward. Anyway, I'm really pleased that Parramatta has made it into the grand final. I've got tickets to the grand final. Don't know who they'll be playing. It'll be between Souths and Penrith, who are playing tonight, to see who our opponent's going to be in the grand final. It's going to be a tough call, of course, for the Eels to win, but who knows? Now, this could be the year of the Eel. I remember when my daughter was born, when she was very young, I bought her a jersey, a Parramatta jersey, and I promised her, as she was growing up, every time the Eels would win a premiership, we would add the year to the back of the jersey. And believe it or not, she's 32 years of age, and that jersey has no years on the back. We went to the 2001 grand final when the Eels were favourites to win the grand final against Newcastle. And I remember at half time, I think the score was 18-0 or something like that. And she looked at me with those little innocent eyes and she goes, "Daddy, is this normal?" And I looked at her and I said, "Darling, no, this is not normal." Anyway, we fought back in that match, but as Eric Groth Jr. was running down the sideline to score a try, Andrew Johns came across in cover defence and tackled him and pushed him into touch. And at that point I realised that we were not going to win that match. And believe it or not, every time I go to Bronte, I see Andrew Johns there with his young family. I am always tempted to just run down and just tackle him and take him into touch to commemorate that day where he stole our dream. Anyway, take care everybody. Yassas, have a wonderful Saturday and we'll chat again. Bye for now.